side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet for a house with an attached garage to be at least 5 feet from the property line to the east. Number 3 is up to a 5-yard side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet for a house with an attached garage to be at least 5 feet from the property line to the east. Number 4 is up to an 8-foot height variance from the allowed 30 feet for a house with an attached garage to be up to 38 feet tall at its midpoint. Under Article 27, Section 27.17B, the 5th variance is an up to 22.25 foot wetland setback variance from the required 25 feet for a house with an attached garage to be up to 2.75 feet from a wetland. Do we have a petitioner? Come on up, please. Identify yourself and let us know.
Good evening. Should my engineer also join at this point or not?
Sure. When he gets up, if he's going to speak, he needs to identify himself and for who he works.
Okay, great.
Should we just note the time? Should we just note the time as well for the presentation?
Okay, it is 7:05. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for making it out this evening, knowing that this is the case of the evening. And this is as a follow-up from last month to address some of the concerns that there were in the last meeting. And with that said, I'm going to address the items that are as it relates to the construction of the new home that we plan on building on the property. As you know, I'm in new construction and we build new homes. Jeff will be addressing items as it relates to water management, and water management was one of the concerns in the last meeting. So what we've done from the last meeting is, are we able to pull up the screen? I had sent over to the office the new construction design. So I've went into the variances and actually modified some of the variance requests.
Good law. Do we have any, can we put up any new information that they may have gotten?
I sent Lynn a new design of the architectural drawing, which is part of the variance items.
Well, if they're what I just put in, you know, if I just read them in, then.
The ones stated, I believe, are the old ones, which the new ones are, I've reduced the variance requests.
So it's your belief what I just read in is not correct?
I believe, yeah, those were the same variances from the last meeting.
These are the lessers. The last meeting, they were increased from these numbers that were just read in. This is the correct.
What went in is correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
They were.
Yes.
Okay.
The numbers that I had from the last meeting.
We usually.
Apologies. No, those were the same from the last meeting.
These are the correct ones, in here, in our memorandum, in our motion option.
There were still 5, but they were slightly modified, reducing the variance requests on a few, I think 3 of the items.
All right, apparently the agenda is not correct. So I am going to read in, unless board members have a concern, or Ms. Goodlow, I am going to read in the 5 variances that apparently were agreed upon recently. Okay? The information is the same presenter and everything, and the same case number, same address. 5 variances from zoning ordinance 78, zoned R3, Article 27, Section 27.01, C1A, a 10-foot lot width variance from the required 50 feet lot width. Under Article 6, Section 6.04, a 5-yard side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet for a house with attached garage to be 5 feet from the property line to the east. Number 3, a 2.25 side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet for a house with an attached garage to be 7.75 feet from the property line to the west. Number 4, a 5.42 foot height variance from the allowed 30 for a house with an attached garage to be 35.42 feet tall at its midpoint. And number 5, a 20-foot wetland setback variance from the required 25 for a house with an attached garage to be 5 feet from a wetland. Having said that, do the board members believe that that is the current figures?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you believe those are the current figures?
Correct.
All right, then that's what we're going to work off of. So go ahead.
All right, great. Thank you for the adjustment. So as it relates to the easement requests on the property of this 40-foot property, the original was 10 in the last meeting, going from 5 to 10. Mrs. Danaskis, one of her concerns was, on the west property line, that we were close to the wetland easement. So what we did was we took the property, the home construction that we were going to build originally was 30 feet wide. And we went back to our architect and redesigned it so that we could still maintain a 2-car garage, but make the house just slightly narrower, reducing the home size to 27.5 feet wide, which then at that same point reduced the variance to 2 items. One is on the west property line going from 10 feet to 7.75 feet. And then on the wetland, we were originally 2.75 feet, and now it went up to 5 feet from the wetland. So by reducing the home structure a little bit, we were able to address one of the concerns that they thought that 2.75 feet from the buffer was a little bit, tighter than it should be. So we narrowed the home, increased the variance to the wetland, along with increasing the variance on the side yard setback to the west side. Also, by making the home a little narrower, it also reduces the overall height of the home. Originally, we were looking for an 8-foot variance to the center point from 30 to 38. So now the overall height of the home is 35 feet 5 inches, which is your 30.42. So as it relates to the construction of the home, we were able to modify the home a little smaller and staying further away from the wetland, also staying further away from the west side yard setback, and reducing the overall height of the home as well. Yeah, and then a lot of the same comments from the same meeting as far as, we feel like, the construction of the new home there will definitely be an improvement to the township versus, an older shed that's sitting on the property. The current shed right now or garage is sitting right close to the road. You put a car in the back of the garage. it's sticking out actually onto Shady Oaks, could cause issues for, drive-by traffic. The original lot had a design for construction of a home because it has already a dedicated sewer lead that goes to the property. So those properties there have dedicated sewer leads that were already in plan from the original planning process. So we feel like this is going to definitely be an improvement to the township versus what's currently there. Yeah, that's it as far as the construction goes. If you have any questions on that,
Board members?
We reserve questions for after the public comment.
Okay. We're good for now.
I'll let Jeff discuss the concerns from last week, or last month, as it relates to the water management. Just with an associate, he's the expert in this field.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Rizzo, Fenn & Associates, 14933 Commercial Drive, Shelby Township. So for this particular site, what we decided to do is have basically 2 dry wells, and we actually sized them for, a 100-year storm, just because we know how intense, the rain events have been in our, so they're generously sized, for this part lot, probably more than what we really need, but we wanted to find out a way to really alleviate problems and keep the elevation, the finished top product, the catch basin, make sure that's a good 6 inches, foot below the ground, so we really contain and manage our own water. So with that, we did something similar to the property to the west. The dry well was slightly smaller, but we feel that it's on other sites, it's been a pretty good remedy for managing water. And if you guys have any questions, I'm definitely here to answer them.
Thank you. We'll bring you back up if board members have any concerns. Thank you for your time. Next is public.
I'd like to add one comment as it relates to that
Please.
and the water management. So in our previous approval request last fall on a property, we had went through the same process, and the original review, we tabled it because they wanted control of water management. And in the previous property, we installed a dry well of the same scenario, a smaller well system that we had here, and only one. We've actually went in and put 2 of them on this, oversizing them, one in the rear of the home and one also in the front of the home, to pick up any, possible increased water. And that's all to control the water management within the property. So nothing that would go outside of the property.
Thank you. Fellows can have a seat if you would. Next, we're going to ask if we have any members of the public that are interested in speaking to this case tonight. We're going to open the public hearing at 17 minutes after the hour. Anybody that would like to speak, please come up, introduce yourself, tell us what's on your mind. And some of you may have not been here the last time. 3 minutes is your time.
Rob Gothrop, 439 Shady Oaks.
Lindsay Gothrop, also 439 Shady Oaks.
So I brought a handout, if I can pass it out. I have a copy for everyone, showing a couple photos I wanted to refer to.
Thank you.
So similar last time, I want to just impress that we're pretty strongly opposed to this. We live directly to the east of the property that's has the proposed building on it. One of the things, I guess, my number one concern is this, even though I appreciate that there's some water management piece put on it, And we've moved the request for a variance for the wetland setback is reduced by, roughly half. It's still 80% less than what's required. So my general thought is, if that's the case, I don't know why we have a wetland setback. This seems extreme in my situation, from what I can stand. We don't have too much of a concern of the side setback variances. That doesn't bother us too terribly much. But a couple things I wanted to point out, I think you've heard numerous conversations about between this and the other petition from the lots next to this one about water management. So on the first page, this is kind of the new plan. This is from his documents, just kind of highlighting an area. I'll show you on page 2, which is labeled A. I question how well the wetland was actually set. I don't know how they do it, but it was done last year in an extremely dry year. I think the borders are probably questionable as to where they actually are. To me, the area is far wetter than what the bounds show on the actual survey. And that might be due to the timing of last year being a dry year. But on A, what I'm doing is showing a picture down the side of the garage. There's a box in the center of it. It's highlighting a leaf just so you can show for reference where we're at. Page B is moving over a little bit, and you can kind of see that water, which kind of starts to go back into the lot, and to me appears to be further in than what the actual wetlands boundaries show.
And the box is that same leaf.
Yeah, that's the same leaf. I'm just trying to show you a reference to that. On the next page back, labeled C, this is from our property looking into it. It's very hard to see on here. This was just taken, obviously we had a little bit of a rain event, not a heavy one. I would call it a pretty standard rain event. You can see the water sitting there. That's actually not too far in from where the house will be. So that's one of the pieces that I really question. Other issues, so actually in pages E, F, G, this is pictures from us and some of our neighbors after the recent rain. You can see one of them on H is flooding their backyard completely. I think the actual installation of the culvert from the previous one has actually made their property worse, but they can speak to that. The other item I wanted to speak of is the actual lot itself. So if you flip back to the last page, which is labeled J, along this street, these lots were set up, as many lots were, to have a garage across the street to limit the amount of space they had to take up on the lakeside. So as you look on this, all of these boxes labeled A are existing garages that are there. B is our lot, which we intend to fairly shortly to put a garage in there, showing that these lots were not intended to be a buildable lot. That's why it's set as small as it is. These were intended to be garage lots. That's why these variances you need are so extreme. And I get that variances get approved on the lakeside because the lots are narrow, but this isn't a lake lot. This is across from the lake lot. This lot was owned by the same people that owned 447. They split it. This was all known to the current property owner. So I don't think that this is anything that warrants any special considerations or anything that's going to make actions that are going to be to the detriment of the existing property owners. So we're completely against it. I don't know if there's anything else that.
Well, just to go back on the wetland setback, 5 feet away now is what
Yeah.
it's at. I'm 5'10". That's like to my shoulder. So from my feet to here, that's how far he wants to build a house away from a wetland. What recourse do we as neighbors have
Need to
when?
apologize,
Yes.
but you are running out of time.
Okay.
So if you have something,
Well, I mean, I just want, like, that's kind of a height comparison, and I want to know what kind of recourse we will have to when the streets flood worse, when things are worse and we can't get the water out of there, and it causes damage to other people's property. I guess that's what I want to know.
thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other members of the public? Come on up, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Heather McMinn. My address is 837 Dollar Bay Drive. I have many concerns with this request, mostly about the wetlands. My property sits to the north. I can see directly into the wetlands and over that property. And as our fellow neighbor said, it was a dry year last year. I've seen that wetland space. It looks like it's probably double the size with this recent rain. And actually, even with his construction that he's done on the other lot, which was just adding a paved driveway easement to where he's going to be building, I feel like that has actually made that space worse and wet. I've never seen it flood so much into the road and around that actual structure that's currently there. And the same thing, I'm concerned, why do we even have these setback requirements for wetlands if we're gonna go from the required 25 feet to 5 feet? It makes no sense to me. I also have concerns for privacy with the height of the structure. It is right directly behind me. And so I don't see that this is a feasible build, based on what's already there and, the way that the wetlands are. The current stakes that are out there, all the wetlands they're not in any moist area, they're directly in standing water. So I don't see how this is feasible to build on that property, because once he gets his other build on, I'm afraid that that's gonna worsen it, and then we're gonna have another hard structure there. And the only thing that he's put on there was not cement, it's gravel. And that's already worsening the issue of the wetlands. So I think it's a really bad idea. Thank you.
You. Do we have any other members of the public out there? Hello.
My name is Karen Stoffel. I'm the previous owner of the property. I sold it to Gasper. And I'm in shock right now because Rob, who spoke earlier, flooded my property out so badly that I had to sell. I had a lakefront lot and was planning to build my dream home. And because he changed, took out trees, filled in with gravel, sand, changed the whole topography of his two lots, the flooding was incredible and was flooding the street. The township took him to court. He was found guilty. And I'm here to say that I was happy to sell that property to Gasper because I'm 100% confident that he is going to bring it back to where it should be. Thank you.
You.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Skelnick. I live at 415 Shady Oaks, so not directly in line like the previous two speakers, but a couple houses down. And, I mean, so I'm not directly impacted. My properties won't be flooded by, the water problem. But, I mean, just from a neighbor's standpoint, it just seems very clear that this lot was not intended to have a home built on it. Needing minor variances is one thing, but, I mean, this doesn't check really any boxes. It doesn't meet the minimum lot size, side setbacks, lot width, height, wetlands. I mean, it's like, what are we even doing? And a 20-foot wetland setback request doesn't even seem reasonable. It's like, get rid of the, variance altogether. And I think it's very extreme when there's a known water issue where the engineers can do what they want. It's not likely that homes being built on that property is gonna not impact the neighborhood. And when it's, looks like a beautiful home, putting a home that size on a minimum, doesn't even meet the minimum size requirements, there's gonna be cars parked in the driveway, where that will impact me down the street. I mean, there's not gonna be much driveway on a lot that size, so when you add up all those things, this proposal doesn't really hit any boxes, and I just don't see how it could really meet the requirements that you guys need to base your decision on. Thank you.
You.
My name is Gary Burkhardt. I'm at 480 Shady Oaks, which is the lot you can see in the picture that is full of water. And it hasn't rained that hard really, and it's bad. It's the worst it's ever been since they put the driveway in and the culvert and whatever else. So I just don't understand, like everybody else, how you can okay this house when there's not room for it. And it's via wetlands. There's a reason for it. And we don't have any other alternative as far as where the water goes. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? Okay, seeing none. Board members, do you have any concerns, questions? Well, we will close the public comment at 7:29. If somebody thinks of something, and we'll see what we can do. Board members, your turn.
I mean, I'd have questions for the petitioner, but shouldn't they be included in the public comment? And shouldn't we allow the petitioner to respond to some of the commentary that was provided?
He gets to come back up next.
Okay.
Well, never mind, this isn't the time or the place, but he will get to speak.
Okay, I just have questions for him.
Board members have anything that, Mr. Walker?
Question, building official, you familiar with this dry well concept? My thing about the wetland there, and I told you, these are what need to be done in order to waive the wetland. So I think voters need to test on and look at that. So there's a 4 criteria that, the building official, if the project is a private
Question for you too, goes way back in time. Is there such a thing as a perk test anymore?
Yeah, perk tests are, they check basically the water.
Build in an area like that, would that lot have to be perked?
Well, I think he's gonna have to do soil borings in that lot, I'm assuming, to check the ground. Because when you have a wet area like that, typically the soils are not good for foundations, so I'm sure they'll have soil borings, which, that would be an ask for that.
Unless he comes back up with an answer, and he may. Right now, in your experience, the ability of that soil to drain, no matter what they do, is an open question.
Yes, yeah, and we do require third-party testing on all footings, so that the test strength of the ground to make sure it carries the footings well. And that's all projects regardless of whether it's wet or not. So we'll find out something there, but it would be the applicant's due diligence to check that soils before. Obviously, you can't really design a well until you know the soil type. You can get the soil types in the area off the state website to kind of see, but if you don't, then you have to excavate it all out and replace it with permeable soil.
Thank you.
Based on what you've seen in this dry well, Mr. Goodlow, I mean, can you have any indication of how that's going to impact either positively or negatively the water drainage here? Or is that a down-the-road question?
I don't think this property is the problem with the water in the area. The wetland takes the water. Now, when we have rains like we do and pavement in areas, that's what causes issues. Obviously, there's been no containment of water here. It's pretty much blocked from going in the wetland. The wetland, as you can see, is, I'll pull up a report for you real quick. Wetland is not really located on this property. They're encroaching on it, but the wetland's not this property. And I don't believe it's this property's sole responsibility to take on all the water of the neighborhood. It's the wetlands. Now, why it does, I'm not 100% sure. But this is from our engineers, and this you can see where the wetland is located here. And there's 430, this is the garage, this is the wetland. This should take all the water in the area, but when you have these old subs and different things, water will end up in many different places. It's just that it really gathers on this lot currently, but it should actually go into that wetland. That's what my engineer's report was.
Do we have any information on potential impact of drainage or flow into that wetland based on what's being proposed with the setback?
I don't have anything on that. You know, obviously, as a lot owner, you're supposed to contain the water on your lot, right? If this one receives more, then you just get it to go to the wetland, right? So you protect, you know, if you're the lowest one, you have to receive the water in the local area. You just can't receive it in a erosive velocity. So if I'm higher than you, Alec, I can't dump my water on you at a erosive velocity, but if I'm higher than you and my water naturally flows that way, that's just the way, you know, that's how we handle it in the enforcement. I just want to make sure that we're keying in on the importance of the things when we talk about wetland. Whether you talk about drainage is one thing, but when you talk about the wetland, we want to meet that criteria that is laid out in our ordinance. And that's just
Thank you for Mrs. Danaskis. I didn't see any incoming correspondence on this.
No, I did not. We had not, that wasn't previously.
Thank you.
So yeah, demonstrate habitat preservation, water quality preservation, storm quality retention, and existence of a legal record. Those are the 4 criteria that, you know, for me to do a waiver, that's what I look at when, if I was going.
Board have anything additional before we bring the petitioner back up? Seeing none, come on, I'm sorry, Mr. Danaskis.
Just with living in this community for a very long time around wetlands. The boundary of a wetland is highly dependent on the season, what happens in each season. It's not a hard set line. And so we always have to be considerate of the fact that the water's going to ebb and it's going to increase. And so that is the reason for the setback from the wetland, because it's not just a stable line that doesn't change. It changes constantly. So just that's something that should always be considered.
Well said. And you can look at this. This is the intent of the wetland setbacks, and I believe this kind of what you're touching on. Proper maintenance use of areas surrounding wetlands. So, you know, you're 100% correct. That is a factor.
Petitioner, Mr. Vitale, why don't you come back up? Based on either one of you, and if you speak again, please let us know who you are. Based on what you heard, do you have additional information you'd like us to know? You heard what people's concerns are.
Hello, Jeff Rizzo, Fenn and Associates, doing the surveying and civil engineering for Gasper. Just wanted to talk a little bit more about the dry wells, because you had mentioned a perk test. So for dry well design, there's an infiltration test that's performed, which is very similar to a perk test. You know, so where they're looking at the water, they're looking at the rate, you know, how long, and it's done by a geotechnical soils engineer. And that really is an important item for designing a dry well. Then, of course, we'll look at, you know, the soil types. Granular soils are going to be better. You'd want to look at kind of where the water table is going to be to make sure your dry well functions properly. But these are all things that are done, you know, once we get into the, I guess, the building permits engineering stage.
Okay, and if I'm in error, please correct me. Do I remember that these dry wells right now are ideas and drawings, but nothing has been installed in that area yet?
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything that's been installed.
So that, we're kind of talking about an idea right now. We don't have any, yep, this is what that is and this is what it does.
Correct, we're talking about a proposed solution for stormwater management.
Okay. Have you done any looking at the dirt? You heard him talking about soil borings. Have you done any even surface?
I haven't done anything specifically on this property, yeah.
Okay. And these are just questions, not accusations. I'm just trying to get an idea where everybody is. Okay, board members, please.
Is there anything from stopping you from doing those soil or water studies at this point?
No, they have not been conducted, but there is nothing stopping us from doing, like an actual soil test.
So right now, we're dealing solely in hypotheticals that you're proposing this dry well, but in theory, you have no idea whether it's going to solve the problem or not, because you haven't tested it, correct? Okay.
Make it contingent upon approved soil testings or the proper soils needed.
But you could go back and do a study and tell us yes or no, this is going to solve a water problem, or if it's not going to solve the water problem, then propose an alternative that is going to solve the water problem, correct?
Yes.
In real time, weeks, months, what would be required for you to get out there and do what Mr. Tregian just mentioned, and do it confidently so that you are sure that you are not spending wild amounts of money, but you're doing what you have to do to make it work? I mean, are we talking a month, 2 months?
Yeah, I would say within a 60-day period. I don't think your firm does the soil testing.
No,
We'd have to get a separate engineer that's specialized.
And
They handle more than the civil engineering side of it.
And on the other side, did I hear you say that you would be willing to agree to a condition in a motion if you're going to be successful, that you would have to provide that information? And if it was not,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay. And you go out there and look at it, it doesn't work, then what? This is getting
Mr. Chair.
tremendously complicated. Mr. Damascus?
So I'm not an expert on water retention or any of the structures or how the soil would work, but is the concern, are the retention wells to deter the water from collecting on this particular property? Because part of what I see is the fact that the concern is what's going to happen to the wetlands that abuts this property. And if the water is high, and that it's not just this property that will be affected, but the property around. Am I correct in that, or am I not reading that correctly?
It will, basically, the dry wells on our lot will
I understand
hold
that.
the water, on our lot.
I think the concern here is when you're next to a wetlands, what your impact on the wetlands, as well as the impact on the house.
As Mr. Goodlow stated, so the current wetlands right now is actually a piece of property that's handling some water maintenance from the area, right? And actually, that wetlands continues west, away from this property. So I believe that what we're proposing is actually gonna improve the current situation than what it is right now. Because there is no management whatsoever.
Well, right now, there's no building other than a garage on that property, correct? And you, what's the square footage of the house that you're proposing? What's the total square footage? What's the total square footage of the home?
Oh. The exact square footage, the first floor for the house would be, the footprint would be 1,082.
Okay, so you're taking 1,082 square feet of, right now, grass, trees, shrubs. You're putting, in theory, a concrete driveway as well and removing all of that space and.
Driveway already there.
Okay. Well, essentially, you're removing all this where right now water can flow and drain into this soil, but you just said that you building a house there is going to improve the water into the wetlands. How is that possible if you're removing all of this green space?
Dry well system that we're installing.
But you earlier said that you didn't do any study on what the dry well is going to do with the water, correct?
Correct.
So you don't know, you actually don't know what is going to happen to the water or to the wetlands, correct?
Well, it's subject to having the testing that are positive for drywall design.
At this point, you don't know, correct?
Of course we don't. Right.
Thank you.
Let me interrupt everything for a minute. Mr. Goodlow's been trying to speak.
So, I want to make sure that we're talking about the wetland and how those four criteria. When we talk about the water that this property drains, it's not this property's responsibility, in my opinion, nor my, opinion from our engineers, that this should solely be a collection area for everybody. There used to be a swale that ran between this lot and the other one to that wetland, which is filled in when that, to the north, according to my engineers, that's their opinion, when that property is done to the north. I'd like to ask the former owner if it did flood to this extent 7 or 10 years ago, prior to that pavement, concrete, and that swale being filled in. Because I think we're holding this applicant for the water, when the water, that's what they gotta deal with, but the wetland preservation is, I think, what we get a key on. I think we're getting a little off track going for like, because they're responsible for their water and whatever water comes onto their property, and that's how they handle it, whether or not get it to the wetland. I just think we gotta make sure we're sticking to the guns on wetland preservation. Because the water, that's honestly, when I do my review, I can hash all that out to make it sure. You know, like I said, we did have an issue with the property in North filling in the swale. And there was enforcement action, and it seems to, this never really improved. With it, I don't know if any of you are out there today, but it's wet. So I think essentially the dry wells and the home would improve that standing water. Absolutely. I think by directing it to the wetland and getting it in. But can we keep the character like the, Mr. Nass was talking of the wetland and meet those four criteria? Otherwise, I think we're getting out into the woods. Let me worry about the water and the runoff, but let's talk about the preservation of the wetland. That's the biggest thing, those four criteria. Because the water will be handled either way.
Yeah, I'll ask you what I just asked the gentleman. We're talking about dry wells. You can't know if they're gonna work either.
No, but if you can't make them work, you have to engineer them to work. You might have to put it underground retention. That's a real risk they're willing to take. But, you know, if you have two dry wells the size of this, they excavate it all out, they remove the dirt, and they bring in permeable soils. This isn't in the wetland. Now, will that action affect the wetland? What are they gonna do with the surrounding area to make sure that wetland is, those are the questions I wanna ask, rather than, you know, what are you gonna do with the water? I know what they're gonna do with the water. You're gonna direct it to the wetland, like they do in subs, because usually you have swales on back edges of property. So if they built a swale where the water comes in with the dry well and kick it back out to the wetland, I think that's a great solution. Now, how are they gonna make sure that this homeowner somebody doesn't fill in that wetland, plant grass, and put a patio? You know, those are the things that I wanna make sure we're touching. We're talking 5 feet from a wetland, right? So those, like, I think Ms. Nass is probably a great point, like, the surrounding area needs to be protected, and what you're gonna do about that.
Do you have something for the previous owner?
I was just curious, you know, I mean, the garage has been there, and the garage is flooded today, I believe.
Let's find out. You gentlemen surrender the mic for just a minute. The previous owner of the property, please come back up. We're going to get our steps out of step here a little, but we want to get the information out. You heard what Mr. Goodloe is concerned with?
Yes,
Let him know. You owned it.
well, actually, a neighbor who had been there since 1981 said there was never any flooding whatsoever on the property or in the street. And that started when the neighbor who was speaking tonight started taking out trees, planting grass on the two lots. I guess that would be east of me.
How long did you own the property?
I owned it for 4 years. And I was told there's pylons underneath that garage, and it's been stable for a very long time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Come on back up, gentlemen. Board members. Mr. Cook. Anything?
Mr. Gillo, can you put that schematic of, or the photo of the wetland area? Yeah. Just so I can. Doing this because I want to see the lot in question. Seems to be this lot 430.
This one you want to see?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So this is the lot in question right here.
Right.
Can you zoom it in a little? Bottom right, if you zoom on the bottom right. And then just- That's bottom right as well.
Where's that?
The three icons, the left one, yeah. Read mode should do it. And then go to the second page.
And, hold the control key down and then roll the roller ball.
This one right here.
Okay, that's good. That's, well, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I can see it.
I'll just pull it out and get you a better view.
Do you have the aerial map view that we usually look at? With the dates?
So you could see that part right here, right? That part right here.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman. So on the, one of the prior lots that you were approved on, sir, have those tests been done for the soil types for that dry well? No, okay.
Wetlands is on the lot, vacant lot.
No, I'm asking, I'm aware. That's why I wanted to have it pulled up, because in reference to Ms. Danaskis's question, if you're managing that water and holding it in a dry well, there is a downstream effect, if you will. That you're managing the water, but what's the effect on the wetland itself? Because it now has less water there. But I also realize that it's not your lot, per se, that should be held responsible for managing. That's just one opinion, managing the water itself. So, okay. That's all I got.
Board members have anything additional?
You have a couple questions kind of outside the scope of the water and on the other issues. The house that you're proposing right now, you're looking at get the numbers. A 5-foot side yard setback on the east and a 2.25 on the west, a variance of that amount. Now, I believe one of the images that you showed had estimated house width on it, but I mean, in theory, could you build a smaller house that doesn't require those side setbacks? And still, with the height, potentially have the same garage, but it's just gonna be a little bit more narrow of a layout.
Yeah, well, we were able to reduce it from 30 down to 27 and a half. The goal is, to keep the two-car garage, the risk of going down less and keeping it, going down to a one-car garage. That could be, not something that we would want to risk in the market to sell if the one-car garage on the lot. So, if you were talking at 27 and a half to 27, that's why we went and said, all right, let's reduce it 2.5 feet, doubling the variance, or taking it from, taking the amount of the wetlands and being instead of 2.5 feet from it, being 5 feet from it, that's why we reduced the house by 2.5 feet. Majority on the property is all on like 2.5 feet, or 2.25 feet, just that one little spot on the property that is on ours. The rest of it is on the basic.
The only reason I ask is, last time I know there was a couple other renderings that you had provided, and I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but at this point, you're not set on what, it's kind of the hypothetical drawings of what the house might look like, but if this was to go to a 20-foot wide house, for example, you may not need a side setback, or you could shift over to what would be the east to be effectively potentially 15 feet from the wetland, which may create less of a disturbance concern if the house was narrowed a little bit. That's the reason I asked that question.
So right now, we're at 5 feet from the property line on the east. The previous renderings showed the example of a 20-foot home with but it was only a one-car garage. At that point, we would not build it with a one-car garage. That was in the previous meeting. So that, the one-car garage would not, with that access to the home, would work with 20 feet, and then the 30 feet was the two-car garage. We were able to redesign it from 30 down to 27 and a half. I don't know if you can go less than 5 feet. Are you saying to possibly shift the home even further to the west?
I'm saying if the width of the home was, narrowed, then you would need less of the side setback, and then you could potentially shift away from the wetland and have less of a setback on the wetland by doing that.
That's what I've already done from the last meeting, right? The last meeting, we were 2.5 feet from the wetland. Now, by shrinking the home, we went to 5 feet from the wetland.
And I guess one follow-up question, I mean, you can build a home that is 20 foot, but because it has a one-car garage, you essentially don't want to.
Correct. We wouldn't want to put the home with a one-car garage of that nature on that lot. Correct.
Okay.
Board members, do we have anything additional?
Just from the standpoint, I understand the width has changed, but has the depth of the home changed at all? Or is it still around 40 feet?
Again, the home,
39.
39 feet.
Right. 39.35, yeah. Okay.
Do you have any, either one of you, any other statements you'd like to make while the door is still open? Because once I shut the comment off, it's going to be up to the board members to think about what they want to do for a motion.
I just had one thing I'd like to say, related to, wetland buffers. Just wanted to, state some factual information. So Eagle, which was DEQ, okay, they're regulated wetlands. They have a 0 buffer, to the wetlands. Whether or not that's good or bad, different story.
Have a 0 buffer requirement? Is that?
They don't have a buffer requirement. So my point is, we're given 5 feet, that's above and beyond Eagle. Yes, it's nice to get 5 feet or 10 feet, but I just wanted to point that out, that even the, state of Michigan, Eagle doesn't have any requirement. You can go, right to the wetlands. Not that I'd want that to happen.
I have a question based on that.
Please.
Have you contacted anyone from Eagle or DEQ to discuss with them how your proposed construction may or may not impact the wetlands?
So the answer is no. We're not disturbing the wetlands. We're talking about the buffer area, which.
But,
Yeah, does it?
that's not my question, though. If you went to them and submitted a proposed construction plan and asked, would this have impacts or create disturbances in this wetland to the west of the property, would they be able to provide you some analysis on that?
I couldn't answer that. Usually you don't request information from either unless you're requiring a permit, as far as I know.
Correct.
Good law.
Yeah, typically, it's only if you are doing work within the wetland, and this, I don't believe this is a state-regulated wetland, this wetland's regulated by us.
Okay.
Thank you. We have nothing additional from. Come on up. I'm not supposed to reopen public comment, but come on up if you want to speak, please. I'm going to reopen public comment for a very short time at 1 minute after 8.
I just had a question because the ordinances that you showed said that their required setbacks were from also streets, roads, driveways. But I didn't see any kind of, request for a variance from the driveway that he's proposing. And I don't recall it from the last, property to the west, which I did not oppose, for the variance that he got for the garage that was on that property, nor for the drive that runs through there, or the road that he's built. And those both have an impact on the wetlands. I would say especially the road, has impacted that wetland quite a bit by extending the boundaries of it. So to Mr. Naskis's point, it is flexing, that we have this 25-foot setback requirement for a reason, because it does ebb and flow. And is there going to be another request for the driveway variance or the roadway that's there? Because I didn't see either of those.
Thank you. And public comment is closed. 8:02. Board members, we have the ball now.
So just for clarification, before we make motions, this lot does not meet the requirements for the construction of a house with respect to size. Is that correct? In this area?
Correct. I mean, I think we need to take it in parts here, because if the first part is not granted, then it effectively will moot the side and the wetland and the height requests. So depending on number one, the 10-foot lot width variance, depending on what if there is any motion, and then what that is, then we can move to the others. And I mean, to me, maybe it even makes sense to take these in 3 separate categories of the width, the side and height setbacks, and then potentially the wetland setback as well.
So it sounds like you'd like to take each individual variance and make that subject of an individual motion.
3 categories would also be sufficient too, or at a minimum, the first category and the remaining 4. But I guess on the first one, I'm prepared to make a motion on the first request on the lot width.
Hold on just a minute. Board members, anything additional before this goes, Mr. Cook? Mr. Naskis?
No, just one final comment, that the purpose of the restrictions on how close structures are made to a wetland is twofold. It is to protect the wetland and to protect the structure from damage from the wetland. It's not just one-sided. It can go either way, depending on what happens with the wetland, depending on the season of the year.
Second thing is to make sure that there's practical difficulty, so private property rights are same other in the same district.
And I guess some additional commentary on the first issue in terms of the lot width. I mean, to me, I don't foresee an issue there. I don't think this is something that the petitioner, he didn't do the lot split, he just purchased the lot. So allowing him to develop is one thing. I mean, the wetland issue, I think, is separate and should be considered separate from that.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because I'm just the opposite of you on that. Because I think what he's done in terms of looking at the property, looking at the management of water, looking at the usage of, because this is a common problem, particularly in urban areas with the lot width. But in terms of taking it to the next step on what he's done, in terms of reducing the size of the home, and also, I mean, let's face it, we don't have to consider marketability, but he does. And so, my issue is not what he has done. In fact, I'm very happy with that. My issue is with the lot width itself to begin with.
And if this whole thing is not taken in one piece, and I follow what you folks are saying, but if, let's just say that the wetland issue is the biggest issue, if that is not successful, none of the above matters.
Any section, yeah.
So if we're going to break it down, unless the board members feel differently, and if so, we will listen, but if we're going to break it down, we should probably break it down per request. Because if any piece of this falls, the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess the only reason I brought that up is, I mean, if down the road, if he's successful on the 10-foot width variance, but not the others, then maybe some alternative plan, either by the current petitioner, or if he doesn't proceed and sells the lot, somebody else could present an alternative plan to then develop that in some alternative fashion as well.
As long as it's understood that if any piece of this falls, his request tonight fails. Are you following me?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I guess effectively the plan he's proposing would fail, but I don't know if that would result in the entire matter being.
Well, because if in fact the lot width does pass, you could reduce the size of the home and come back. In essence, you could build a home small enough that all of these requests go away. So it becomes, a property that can be built upon.
But he is tonight in front of us said that he is not willing to put a home on the property that he believes he'll have difficulty moving.
I understand, but the variance goes with the property. So whatever we vote on tonight that passes goes with the property, whether he owns it or not.
And
Mr. Walker, do you have any? Mr. Goodlow?
Seems to me that, I don't know how many times, is this our fourth or fifth meeting on this property? I lost track. Every time we adjourn this, we ask the petitioner, we sort of explain where our positions are. He comes back with a smaller compromise every time. So do we do this dance another time? Or do we call it as it is today, as it is tonight?
I mean, to that point, that may go back to something that Mr. Cook raised concern with is all of this a result of being a 40-foot width lot anyway?
Problem is, and we've seen this all over the area, Mr. Cook's been involved in a big bunch of them. There's a lot of strange size, undersized lots out there. A lot of them were leftovers when subs were platted. And they can't make a bigger piece of property. And that kind of puts them in a difficult situation because it's almost big enough. It would be big enough with proper adjustments. I can't make a motion, so I can make this statement, and you guys do what it is you feel you need to do, because you'll be the ones making motions. I would think that the fairest thing we could do for this applicant tonight would be to give him a yes or a no on what he's brought in. That's just my opinion, and I can't say a word, so you folks do what you feel you need to do.
As in all requests at one time?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree. It's either a yea or a nay on the whole package.
Excuse me? Can I say one thing?
Introduce yourself. Your time is normally over, but if you've got something in front of you, go ahead and tell us who you are.
Jasper Vitale. As it relates to the decision-making here, I know that one of the items was, which I couldn't answer for Mr. Torgan, was the soils testing, right? That wasn't conducted. I know that's also a hindering factor, right? That wasn't done. If that was addressed a concern as far as, the wetlands, the drainage, which it all ties in together, having those soils testings, I think would also address a lot of the concern of just water in general, wetland, soils, drainage, everything. I'd be willing to go and do that, do the due diligence of being able to provide that to you. I understand that at that point, we wouldn't be able to make a decision this evening, but if that helps in any way, we could do that, just so that we can check that one more box to say, all right, soils are no good, then we're not discussing anything, or the soils are able to be performed and make sure the water management works.
Thank you for your time. Time now is 13 minutes after 8. In response to what the petitioner just brought up, and he doesn't get to answer me because we're closed. I hear what he's saying, but it would still be an open question. I mean, if he came back with it and that does it, that still doesn't change the width of the lot, and it doesn't change a lot of things. And we don't know hydrologically whether or not the soil would move water away, even if the samplings were positive, that, yeah, it looks good. You won't know till you get the apparatus down there.
I may make a suggestion.
Please.
I think the wetland needs a little more consideration in order to see if it meets 78. I think maybe tonight you get through the lot width and the setback. I think we need an actual something to show how the wetlands can be protected. Now, as a building official, I can offer waivers for wetlands as well. So I think maybe we bring that back at a later time and get to the bones of the building, because I think the wetland is obviously a sticking point for all of us. So we want to know if the lot can be built on first, right? And then you start with one. So let's get that one squared away. Look at the setback ones, and then the wetland one we can, handle.
We split that off, the wetland, can you handle that administratively?
I can, I do have that. It's not like we do it all the time, so I would prefer bringing those back to the board if they could offer something for that. But I think get through one to start.
Because of the time issues and the possible re-advertisement, I would be curious whether the petitioner wants to take another big block of time to come back here with information that your office could legally handle administratively.
Right. So I defer to the board on that. It was just a suggestion, try to save some.
Well, again, just from my own standpoint, I have absolutely no doubt that you either are yourself or have the ability to get a hold of professionals in that field. I would have no problem putting it right in your hands and saying, now this belongs to you, personally.
Yeah, I don't really, I will do that, but I prefer to have, this board handle it. Typically, we don't do waivers on residential. We always send them to you, because they're always coming here anyway, because they gotta go to setbacks and everything. I just want to make sure that intent is clear in that ordinance.
Thank you, board members.
Like I say, for me, I've got opposing sides on the same sheet of paper in the same motion.
We get a member that is ready to make a motion. If you could please give the rest of us a general idea of how you're going to go about it before you do it, I would appreciate it. Are you going to take the whole thing in one bite, or what you plan to do?
To me, I think we have sufficient information to make a decision on both issues today. That's just my view of it. I don't think going back and further kicking this out or soil borings is going to at least impact where I lean on it. Again, I think on the first, if we take the whole thing as one, my initial reaction would be know based on, I haven't seen anything that's been presented on the factors that Mr. Goodloe put up on the board. I've got them in front of me. Demonstration of habitat preservation, demonstration of water quality preservation, demonstration of stormwater quality retention, and existence of a legal lot record. I mean, I haven't seen any presentation on on maintaining the wetlands if anything is constructed on this lot. Now, the lot width is less of an issue because, I mean, he answered questions that he can build a home that is smaller. He just doesn't want to. I mean, that in and of itself isn't necessarily a practical difficulty, because if he could build a smaller home with a one-car garage by us approving the first part, and then maybe he's 15 feet from a wetland, it's less of an issue. But right now, in the totality of things, when he's proposing to be 5 feet from a wetland and hasn't given me any information on these factors in 27.17, that's where I have an issue on the wetland piece. And I mean, he's indicated the dry wells, but I haven't seen any indication on what those are going to do, whether they're going to preserve wetlands or effectively make the wetlands worse and flood everybody else's homes that are currently existing there, and also potentially flood homes that he's going to build west of there. We're dealing solely with hypotheticals at this point, and that's the big issue that I have.
My concern, Mr. Chair, my concerns stem from although it not named in this particular document, that first and foremost, this lot does not meet the size requirement for building a home. That then leads to the fact that the lot is too narrow. That then leads to that the house has to be closer to a wetland than recommended. It's a kind of a domino effect. And I would have difficulty with the provision for it not being self-created. This is how the lot was when purchased. Those three factors were, or at least the first two, are in existence. It doesn't meet the requirements for the lot size, and it's too narrow. So that kind of is dominoed into the other issues. So my inclination is it wasn't a buildable site to begin with.
Meaning this in the very best possible way, and I believe you know that. If you believe that you have basis for motion, I would urge you to go ahead with it in whatever form you put it in. The rest of us will either vote for it or against it. You're as capable as anybody here of putting a motion together.
I'll say that based on Ms. Danask's points, I do see her viewpoint there and can agree in a sense that maybe effectively the lot width variance is tied directly to the wetland variance, and if he wasn't trying to develop a lot with that width, then we wouldn't be concerned about potential disturbances anyway. I'll make a motion if, I'm just gonna take it in parts here. I'll motion.
Excuse me, before you step off, anything additional by the rest of the board? Please, Mr. Egan.
In the matter of ZBA case number AB-2026-01, Gasper Vital, unaddressed parcel behind the northeast corner of 837 Dollar Bay Drive, 09-10-206-027. I move that the petitioner's request for a variance from Article 27, Section 27.01, C1A, a 10-foot lot width variance from the required minimum 50-foot lot width, be denied for plan stamped received February 25th, 2026, and February 27, 2026, because the petitioner did not demonstrate the following standards for variance have been met in this case. The petitioner does not show that the following practical difficulty has been met. This lot was a lot that was 40 feet in width at the time that he has purchased it. It is a lot that is more narrow than the others in that area, but that element also goes to the self-creation issue. The following are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved and generally apply to other properties in the same district or zone. The width of this lot presents issues and potential disturbance of the wetland issues that are tied to this property, in my opinion, due to the width and the surrounding areas, and there has been no demonstration of habitat preservation, demonstration of water quality preservation, or demonstration of stormwater quality retention of this lot on the width and the surrounding wetland areas. The variances are not necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property right possessed by other property in the same zone or vicinity. Again, this property is a 40-foot width property, initially likely designed as a garage lot for a lot that we heard today was owned by the prior owner, who also owned the home across the street. The granting of the variance or modification will be materially detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property or to improvements in such a zone or district in which the property is located, based on the findings that the width of this lot and the proposed constructions and the lack of any studies of impact on wetlands and water and soil and drainage present potential issues in development of this lot to the surrounding properties, potential flooding issues for neighboring properties that we heard concerns from other members of the public and surrounding area. And lastly, the variance was self-created because at the time that the lot was purchased, the petitioner was aware of the width of the lot. The lot could not be developed at that time and willingly purchased the lot that had a garage on it at that time.
We have a motion on the floor to deny by Mr. Tarigian and second by Mr. Dinas.
The motion maker include the last two variance requests, or does that cover, the first one covered the third and the side yard setback and
The motion's only on the lot width variance, which would essentially moot the remaining requests.
So this is just a point of order. In terms of the point number 2, in section 2, I don't think the references to the wetland have much to do with this in terms of the lot width itself. And so I just wanted to point that out, that I, in essence, don't agree with that part of the motion, but I respect what you said.
Let me make sure I understand this, and anybody with any insight, please speak up, because I'm getting close to the edge. So we have a motion on the floor for 1 out of 5 variance requests. If that is unsuccessful, what in the idea of any of you, in the feeling of any of you, happens to the other 4? I've never seen this. Any ideas, Mr. Walker? We're just asking for advice.
That's why I brought it up. I'm not sure myself.
Well, it is, like said, it's a moot point at this point. You know, number one is always, is contingent to start. So, the other ones are all moot.
So no action would need to be taken.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I will say in the last, that it'd be consistent that if the lot can't be developed because of the width, then there's no sense in moving on to the side and height and wetland requests. Because he wouldn't be able to develop the lot to begin with based on, with the lack of number one on the width.
Okay, my job is just to keep the ball moving. So we have a motion on the floor with support. I'm going to offer to the public a minute to come up here, tell us who you are, and only comment on the motion you heard. We will not answer questions. It will be your time to speak if you choose to, and that time would start at 2029, right now. Seeing none, we'll close it at 2029. Nothing additional by the board. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Kanaskis, yes. Cook,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Terrigian,
Yes.
Durham.
No. You are denied for your request tonight. And that's pretty much all I've got to tell you. I don't, if, okay, I'm sorry that we kind of spun our wheels a little bit, but we got where we needed to be. If you believe that you have issues, I would be contacting the office first thing in the morning. Speak to the zoning people that you've spoken to all the way until now. Next, we have an open time for public comment. Anybody have anything to say? Again, it will be your time. We will not answer questions. Thank you. Seeing none, communications and training. There is a slip in here about Robert's Rules of Order and something else that the Kelly firm is putting on in Auburn Hills, and we're being offered the opportunity to go to it. But you have to let Tammy know, I think, by the 18th of the month. That paperwork is in here. Anybody have anything additional under communication or training or committee reports? Here's the big one, member comments. I know there's going to be some. Ms. Kanaskis.
I stated my, yes.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just can, there were so many factors that don't make this a buildable lot, that I mean, the mere fact that it doesn't even meet the minimum size, the narrowness of it. I've been out there a couple of times with the water and seen what that property is like. I'm not only concerned for the wetlands, I'm concerned about that house. If that water goes up, sitting, 5 feet from the border of the water. So, it just did not make sense to me.
Again, you have anything?
No, I'll say I tend to agree. To me, when you've got multiple other lots in that area you own, you can play around with lot splits, deeding things over to make things more reasonable. I asked about it in the last meeting. I understand not wanting to do that because 3 houses makes you more money than 2, but developing a lot like that presents issues and concerns, and there's a lot of water pictures that I've seen from others that pushed me in that direction.
Yeah, mine is kind of, my concerns for the particular case were if the dry wells, which I thought were well in terms of their estimated size, might work actually too well and dry the wetland out because it's intercepting so much water. I thought that the petitioner did a really good job of kind of working with us, but again, we have to start with the first thing, which is the lot width itself. In terms of our current standards, which just were recently revised.
Okay. The only thing I'll say, everybody up here has got a reason that you're up here. We've all got different ways to look at these things. We come to the right conclusions. Sometimes the road to get there is maybe a little bit longer than it should be, but we do come up with the right conclusions. Good work comes out of here. But I have never seen this before. And maybe this is a streamlined way. Maybe we should have been doing it this way all along. I suspect we'll find out tomorrow or the next day at the latest. But I have never seen this before, and it's like, okay. It was kind of a fallback to something I had never seen. Doesn't mean that the way it was done is there's any problem with it. I just had not seen it before. And I guess that's where I'll stop. Mr. Walker, you have anything?
I love this board. I do. Because we disagree with each other. How it should be. And it ain't how it is. So congratulations, board.
Read this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was aware of that as well, but I was less concerned on that. And
Well, he was the guy that put up in the first place. He's got a lot of nerve come up and then bitch about it, but.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Goodloe, you've been in on this as much as we have. You have anything? Motion to adjourn, please.
support.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.